Nancy Pelosi says Obamacare will be a winner for the Democratic Party in this year's midterm elections. Well, political analysts and even some other Democrats just say just the opposite.
Well, polls are showing that the unpopular law could seriously hurt Democrats this year. David Brody talked to some members of the party to get their reaction.
The Affordable Care Act may be known as Obamacare, but for Democrats seeking re-election, it's becoming more like Obama scare. Case in point, Democrat Alex Sink got sunk by Republican challenger David Jolly during a special election in Florida last week.
Wow.
Jolly campaigned on repealing Obamacare and won. Sink embraced Obamacare and lost.
That is the big challenge for Democrats running for re-election up here on Capitol Hill. They all voted for Obamacare, but now they're trying to distance themselves from it. And if they don't, they may not be up here next year.
Democrats currently control the Senate, but Republicans could take over by picking up 6 seats. Their strategy? Focus on Democrats from conservative states who voted for Obamacare. They include Alaska Senator Mark Begich, Kay Hagan in North Carolina, Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, Mark Udall in Colorado, and the vulnerable Mark Pryor down in Arkansas.
I know we have a ton of outside money that is coming in against me right now. They're going to say all kinds of things and try to convince people that I'm really not the kind of senator they wanted over the last 12 years. But the truth is I have a great relationship with the state. There's a trust relationship there.
Conservative groups are questioning that trust, with ads reminding voters that Pryor backed Obamacare and that it's hurting folks in Arkansas.
We received a letter from our insurance company as of December of 2014 that we would no longer be covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Pryor says he understands the frustration.
I've been frustrated with the rollout, no question about that. I know people in Arkansas are frustrated with it. You know, that was a hard piece of legislation to pass.
Pryor agrees changes need to be made, but he's sticking by the controversial law.
If you get 80% of it right, you've really done something. And I think we did get a lot of it right. I don't know if we did 80%, 90%, 70%, I don't know, but we got a lot of it right. But there's still, it's far from perfect.
From the beginning, Obamacare has been under a dark cloud. First, the website crashed, then came the policy cancellations that refuted President Obama's promise that Americans could keep their health care insurance, and the list goes on. One top House Democrat doesn't believe Obamacare will become the party's death knell.
How do Democrats take control back of the House, and can it be doable in this climate of everybody trying to bash Obamacare?
Well, I do think that Democrats will pick up additional seats in the House. The question, of course, is whether you can get to the magic number of 17, which is what Democrats need to get the majority in the House. And look, there's a lot of time between now and November, politically speaking. A lot can change.
Will these Democrats turn to the president for help during their campaigns? His popularity is sinking fast.
Whether or not the president campaigns in person in every district of the country, is something both the president will decide whether he has time to do it and whether or not, members make that request.
Right now, the request from vulnerable Democrats is to figure out how not to get sunk by Obamacare. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
In other news, the search for possible debris from that Malaysian jet is still proving to be difficult. John Jessup has that story from Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. The hunt for clues to the fate of Flight 370 is intensifying, with search planes honing in on objects spotted by 2 satellite images in the Indian Ocean. They could be pieces of the missing jetliner. Bad weather hampered search efforts Thursday, and searchers didn't find anything as they began today. U.S. and Australian planes are scouring an area about 1,500 miles off the Australian coast. Officials say the search has been very difficult.
It's about the most inaccessible spot that you could imagine on the face of the earth. But if there is anything down there, we will find it. We owe it to the families of those people to do no less.
Malaysian authorities have not ruled out any possible explanation for how the jet went missing. Well, here at home, a jury has ruled North Carolina University violated a conservative professor's right to free speech. Dr. Mike Adams first filed suit in 2007. He argued school administrators deliberately overlooked him for promotion after he converted from atheism to Christianity. Last year, a federal court found enough evidence supporting his claim to go to trial and on Thursday, a jury ruled in his favor. The trial court will determine his compensation later. The American Center for Law and Justice represented Adams. They called the verdict an important victory for academic freedom and the First Amendment. Well, the movie Noah hits theaters next weekend, but the film has been generating buzz and controversy for months. Some Christian leaders have criticized it, calling the movie an environmental crusade that strays too far from the biblical storyline. But others are speaking out in support of the film, starring Russell Crowe as Noah. Some of those voices are heard here in the special preview the studio released exclusively to CBN News.
It's a horrifying story about how serious human sinfulness is.
I know any good movie has to deviate from the book, and I loved the choices that they made. I thought it was a story that could have stopped once they got on the boat, and yet it kept driving me back to wanting to go back and read Noah again.
What this story does, in I think a great way, is invite us to take a look at the man Noah.
The president of National Religious Broadcasters also praised the film for its production value, acting, and faithfulness to the biblical elements of sin, judgment, and restoration. That came after Paramount Pictures made an addition to its advertising for the film, saying that it's inspired by the story of Noah and that artistic licenses had been taken. You can watch this exclusive feature in its entirety on our website at cbnnews.com. Well, drones are among the hottest topics in state houses across the country this year. That's because privacy advocates and government agencies are battling over their uses. More than 35 states are considering drone legislation this year. Law enforcement and local governments want to use remote-controlled aircraft for everything from surveillance to search and rescue. But watchdog groups are urging state legislatures to step in and head off any potential privacy concerns. While governments are working on regulations, companies around the world are wasting no time. And as George Thomas explains, they're finding all kinds of uses for drones.
Drone technology is flourishing, and with it comes an eager marketplace. Photographers, real estate agents, movie makers, and others are embracing the flying devices. Last week, in fact, a drone was used to capture pictures of that East Harlem building explosion. And here, pictures taken by a drone are being used to help sell this luxury property overlooking the Hudson River.
It has a unique view of the house and the surrounding areas. It really is very impressive.
Team Black Sheep is one of many video companies to use drone technology for some of its films. But even as popular as drones are becoming in the U.S., the Federal Aviation Administration actually bars their commercial use.
The rest of the world is already doing this. Okay, this is not something that we're just the only ones. So it's going to happen, with or without us.
That's because commercial drones are already being used in countries where authorities say the aircrafts present little threat if operators follow safety rules. One company, Maternet, has a project in Haiti to deliver medicine to isolated mountaintop villages.
And they're totally disconnected from all medical services. It's impossible to get vaccines reliably to them. It's very hard to give them access to consumer goods, and it's extremely hard for them to get their goods to market.
In Japan, helicopter drones have been spraying crops for 20 years. South Korea launched a similar program 5 years ago, and Australia recently started using them too. The German delivery company DHL is testing a packet copter drone that could be used to deliver small, urgently needed goods to hard-to-reach places. It's easy to see much of the world has jumped on the drone bandwagon, but many say FAA rules are leaving the U.S. lagging behind. George Thomas, CBN News.
Some hackers have built a drone that can steal information right off your smartphone. CNN Money reports they've been testing that drone in the skies over London. And the subject of privacy, technology, and intelligence surveillance will be on the agenda at the White House today. Politico reports that President Obama is getting tougher with tech CEOs on those issues. The meeting comes as the White House has started a comprehensive review on the subject of collecting information and privacy. And Gordon, the New York Times recently published an op-ed that said we are in the Wild West of privacy.
Well, certainly are. I wish the government would get tougher on the government regarding privacy. The access the NSA clearly has to literally every text message, every email, all the metadata on phone calls, the location of that phone, all of this information is being stored. And then who's watching the watchers? We have lost privacy. I don't think it's a wild, wild west as much as we've lost it. and we need comprehensive review. What can the government keep and what must they delete on the average citizen?
The Department of Justice refused to appoint a special prosecutor Thursday to investigate the IRS Tea Party scandal. In the run-up to the 2012 presidential election, the IRS targeted dozens of conservative groups, crippling their potential impact. The American Center for Law and Justice says the Obama's Justice Department decision contributes to a troubling and growing pattern of obstruction. Operation Blessing is helping a village in Honduras obtain clean drinking water. Locals used to get their water supply from a stream in the mountains, but the water they collected was not safe to drink and would often cause some to get sick with stomach pains and diarrhea. Operation Blessing teams built a large storage tank and purification system to treat the water and make it safe to drink. Then they created a network of pipes going to each house in the village, providing every family with its own water faucet. Well, you can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to its website, ob.org.